You've done nearly 5,000 episodes of Coronation Street. I don't know if you knew that, but you probably lost count a long time ago. You're in the Guinness Book of Records as the longest serving actor in a continuous drama.
In the world?
In the world.
Yeah.
You worked with Minnie Caldwell, Elsie Tanner, Albert Tatlock,
Ina Sharples. Yeah.
What was your first day like?
We had no expectations. It was only going to run for a few weeks. Found my name, Second Lieutenant William Roache, the Caribbean. I was actually posted to Jamaica. What I loved, we were on the edge of the empty quarter of Arabia called the Rubul Khali. I used to go there and I used to feel great. I thought, it's so peaceful. I feel I can think and I'll decide what I want to do with my life. And
what was Pat Phoenix like?
She was a character, Pat. She was lovely. I had a big row with her early on.
You know, it was tragic what happened in 2009. How did you navigate that?
It was such a shock. And she was so wonderful. She was a wonderful wife. I had my own understanding about life and what goes on. I know that to me, life carries on. She carries on.
How was your relationship with Johnny Briggs then?
We punched each other. I think he punched me and I punched him. I feel I'm Ken's protector.
Yeah.
I feel I'm looking after his caretaker rather than protector.
So, Bill.
Scott.
It's so good to see you. It really is.
It's nice to see you because I have no idea it was so long. It's like 24 years.
Oh, yeah.
I can't believe
so
it.
It's 24 years since I left.
Wow.
It's 26 years since I started. I remember the first day I came in and you were lovely to me. I mean, I was massively starstruck. And the funny thing about Coronation Street is as well, everyone's in costume. Not so much you, but say Barbara, Rita, so she's got all her makeup on. And,
yeah.
And it's such a strange experience your first day.
It's a strange experience. Yeah, it is. But I like I said earlier, I just lose. I'm 64 years now I've been in it.
That's insane.
And people keep popping up and saying I've got no idea of the timing.
Yeah. Well, from my point of view, it's like an anchor point in time because it was such a big event in my life. It didn't continue, obviously, but it was a big, massive event in my life. And I was in this show and it was getting 18 million views at the time. I think it was not quite the golden age when I was in it, but it was nearly
It was sort of, yeah.
A lot of viewers.
The viewing figures are pretty good then.
Yeah, between 13 and 18 million and stuff. So,
yeah.
But let's talk statistics. Okay, so you've done nearly 5,000 episodes of Coronation Street. I don't know if you knew that, but you probably lost count a long time ago. So you've done nearly 5,000 episodes. You're in the Guinness Book of Records as the longest serving actor in a continuous drama.
In the world.
In the world.
Yeah.
In the world. Let's say it the way it is. In the world.
Sorry, that's amazing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I just wanted to give that clap.
Absolutely. And, you know, let's cast our minds back to December the 9th, 1960. You worked with Minnie Caldwell, Elsie Tanner, Albert Tatlock,
Ina Sharples.
Yeah. What was your first day like?
It was extraordinary, really, because it wasn't expected to be anything great. And I just had the lead in the play. And I remember the play of the week on a Wednesday night, 9 o'clock, in 1960 was the highlight of the week. And I just had the lead in the play, Beck or Marking Time, playing a young soldier in Germany. And I'd filmed it in Manchester at the time that Tony Warren was walking around trying to get Coronation Street off the ground. And apparently, unbeknown to me, he took Josie Scott, who was in casting there, he took her down to the studio, pointed to me and said, "He's the one I want for Ken Barlow." I didn't know that. I went through all the rigmarole of trials and things like that. Anyway, yes, I do remember that time. But we were all, apart from Ina, Violet Carson, who was Auntie Vi on Wilfred Pickle's show, we were all unknowns, just locals. So it wasn't a big deal. And of course, television in those days, Granada was just a tiny little pocket. So I just filmed this play and I went home, and then my agent rang and said, "Oh, they want you again, Bill." He said, "I think it's a comedy show. They want you to come back." I said, "I don't want to, I'm not interested. I've just done the lead in a play, big deal for me, Quantum Leap, I'm waiting for that." So he rang me back later and said, "Look, Bill, look at it this way." He said, "This thing they're offering you," I said, "I don't know what it is, but it's going to be on twice a week. It's only going to run for 11 weeks. And he said, "Imagine this, halfway through that, one of the weeks you'll be in the play Monday and Friday, and on the Wednesday you'll have your play, Great Shop Window."
Yeah.
So I thought, yeah, that sounds sensible. I said, okay, so I'll do it. I'll do it. And I'm still waiting to get back and get on with my life.
What was your first day on set like? Were you nervous like me?
No, there was no nerves.
Was it different then?
Yeah,
you didn't probably feel as much pressure in the sense that it was a new show and you had no expectations.
We had no expectations. It was only going to run for a few weeks. I was actually I thought the company were nice. I liked the people that we met there. But I wasn't worried about it. The only thing that was in those days, we used to do the first one live. Now that's always worrying, and we've done a few live ones since. They're terrifying. So it was a happy company. We all got on well. There was only 15 of us, and we were all in every episode. Well, when you're doing twice a week, that's okay. Of course, now we're on 6 times a week.
Yeah.
We've got about a cast of nearly 100. I don't know what it is.
That many?
Massive.
Because I remember I've got a cast picture in there which I'll show you.
Yeah.
There was about 50 of us in it.
No, it was over 70. I mean, not regular.
No, but
it's very big now.
Look, if we cast our minds further back, April the 25th, 1932, and by the way, happy birthday from the other day.
Yeah, it was last Wednesday.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
What was like, because you look very young, but because of your great age, what was life like then? What was your earliest recollections?
Well, my father was a doctor in Ilkeston in Derbyshire, a general practitioner, and we lived in a very big Victorian house which had a conservatory on the side of it, and that was the entrance to the surgery and the waiting room, because it was all part of the house. So I brought up in this house where my father had an assistant who lived in, and there was my sister Beryl, my mother, myself, and we had 2 maids at the time in the house. So it was quite a relaxed life. And then next door, I don't know if you heard of Rudolf Steiner, the philosopher.
Yeah.
But yeah, great man. And he started some schools. There's some Rudolf Steiner schools. Big plot of land. My father's garden at that time was massive, and he sold half of the garden to the Rudolf Steiner organisation for them to build a school, Michael House. So this school was built there, and of course that was my first one. And Rudolf Steiner, well, they were wonderful schools. They had no discipline. There was all sorts of things. There was no conventional teaching. They believed in crafts and doing things and
artistic
yes,
slants,
and imparting knowledge as it went along. So my first 2 years were there. I used to walk through a gap in the hedge to get to school.
Yeah. What a wonderful start.
I was that was only from 5 till 7.
Yeah.
But then of course the war came, and at 7 my cousin Harry Nicholson had already gone to a boarding school in North Wales called Rydal. So the Rolls-Royce works were only 7 or 8 miles away. So at the age of 7, I was sent away to boarding school. I remember hearing the German planes coming over at night. We used to hear the bombers coming over, and it was quite a shock. Well, the shock was moving from a Rudolf Steiner school to a conventional English boarding
disciplinarian
school.
Cold
Cold baths in the morning, and all sorts of discipline, strict teaching, and it was
that a shock to the system?
Totally big shock to the system.
Do you think going to the Rudolf Steiner school gave you your first interest in spirituality and things?
Looking back, it possibly did. I'm not sure, because my grandfather, it wasn't accidental that Rudolf Steiner came to us, because my grandfather was a great follower of Rudolf Steiner, and I actually met him and knew him slightly. So I'd never met my grandfather, but I'd heard a lot about him. And he was very into all these things, and he was into hypnotism, homeopathy,
of course,
and other things as well as medicine. So I think that's probably more where it came from.
Where it came from, yeah. Did you went into the army briefly?
Well, national service.
National service, yeah.
At school, I was okay at school. I did quite well, but two subjects I was hopeless at. One was physics and the other was chemistry. Both were necessary for a medical degree. I was absolutely hopeless at both of those. So the army said, well, whatever you're doing, you've got to come in and do your 2 years. So I got called up into the Royal Welsh Fusiliers, and it was that was a shock to the system.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mainly the language. I couldn't believe it, coming from a boarding school to a place where swear words were every other word. It was very different. But
I mean, life was. I didn't live then, but life seemed harder in a different way than it is. Life's a bit more complicated nowadays as a young person. But back in the day, I remember the late 70s. Everything seemed very grim and dark. So was that the way it was during them times? Was it cold? Was it damp? Was it being in the army? Was it a physically difficult situation for you?
Well, in a way, it wasn't, because boarding schools had really fortified me in a way to be away from home, living in a different environment, being in the army. And what I found when I joined the army, the platoon that you did your basic training with, you became really close. And I began to understand what the camaraderie in the army was like.
Brotherhood.
You looked after your mates, and things like that. And you got shouted at, and you had to do your drill and all those things. But quite early on, I was sent up to a War Office selection board, WOSB, to see if I was suitable material to be an officer, mainly because I got school certificate, which very few of them, some of them couldn't read or write. I actually laughed when the guy said, if anyone can't read or write, just a couple of guys put their hands up. Stop, I didn't realise. Anyway, I did, I passed that, and I went to officer cadet training at Eton Hall in Chester, became a second lieutenant. But the Welsh Brigade at the time was fighting in Korea. So it wasn't a happy thought, being at school in the sixth form, thinking, oh, in about 3 months' time, I could be in Korea fighting a battle. So I went to Eton Hall, did the 4 months training, and we were told after the passing out parade to get our uniforms. We got the pips on, we got the rank, we were commissioned second lieutenant, and we would get our postings. So I went to the notice board expecting career, and eventually I found my name, Second Lieutenant William Roache, the Caribbean. I was actually posted to Jamaica.
Oh really?
I did a year in Jamaica where all I remember is we played cricket every day, and rum was top to the top, filled up with lime juice and sugar. You just drank that all the time. So I had a wonderful year in Jamaica.
If they ever do national service for over 50s, I'll count me in if that's the case. Do you know what I mean?
I couldn't believe it. I really thought I was going to Korea.
That's like a very charmed start to your life,
It was.
Really?
I realised I was looked after.
When was the first time you had an inkling about being an actor? I can tell you mine. I always loved films and loved theatre and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was the reality of getting a job. That's why I started going to Oldham Theatre Workshop and doing acting classes, because I thought I need to try something that's a little bit left to fill. So that was mine. What about yours?
Well, my mother was the produced plays for the Townswomen's Guild. And she did quite a bit of amateur acting, and I helped out with those plays, doing props and things as I grew up. I knew about that. But I never thought of acting as a proper job. I'm not sure I do now.
That's the thing. That's the thing. My dad doesn't, and I don't think my mum ever did when she was around. But no, I don't think many people do.
It's very funny, really. So what happened was in the army, because I knew I'd never get qualified as a doctor. I just didn't have the scientific side of it. I thought, I've got commissioned, and in my army, in the background, my family were either army officers or doctors. So I thought, well, I've done it. I've fulfilled the family honour,
the obligation. Yeah.
But later on, after Jamaica, I was posted to Germany. That was really tough. We were doing exercises with the Americans and everybody, and the thing came round saying volunteers wanted for the crucial Oman Levies. So I went to the adjutant and I said, what's that? He said, well, it's an Arab force with British officers. Boom, Lawrence of Arabia, blah, blah. Anything to get away from the army as it was then. So I volunteered. I think you never do in the army, but I did. Within 2 weeks, I was on embarkation leave. And then I was eventually flown out via Cairo, and then in a little Anson flew out over the desert, and it seemed to be miles of just desert. Then we came across all these little square of barusti, which is woven palm leaves, huts. And the plane landed on a makeshift airstrip with oil drums marking it out. And that was it. So I met the captain there, and he said, right, we're in charge of the 7 sheikdoms here, and our role is to keep the peace amongst them. And you've got to learn the language, so you've got a week.
Yeah.
he had me in the office there. He said, you're promoted to captain. I was a full lieutenant by then, but you're promoted to captain because only a captain can be in charge. And that was it, and I was put in charge of B Company, and we just used to patrol these certain areas. There was only one tribe, the Beni Kitab tribe, didn't have a permanent residence. They were nomadic. The others all lived in Sharjah, Dubai, or Ras Al Khaimah, or the places around there. And they were the troublesome people. And in fact, although I was in charge of this platoon, apart from the language being, I learned a bit and managed to get understood. If I gave an order to one of the soldiers, but he'd go away, and one of the other soldiers, he'd go and ask his permission, because in the tribe, he was bigger, he was higher up.
Of course, yeah.
And you just had to allow that, you accept that. It's a totally different setup. But I loved it. I had 2 years there without a break, because the Suez crisis started, and I was kept on longer than I should have been. And I had just 2 years living there with them, doing patrols. I only met another Englishman every 2 months, I think it was, when we changed outposts. There were about 4 of them. And other than that, I just had the Arabs. I got a bit of the language, but not a lot.
Did you miss the UK?
Did I miss?
Yeah. Did you miss the UK? Did you miss England?
You know, my background is strange. Boarding school at the age of 7 and so on and so on. And I've got accustomed to looking after myself wherever I am. Obviously, it was very different. In fact, Christmas Day, one of the Christmas days there, I didn't even know it was Christmas Day.
Wow.
Because we were with the Islamic calendar. And I had an incredible 2 years in charge of them, and realised it was a different type of thing. In the British Army, you give an order, they've got to obey it. There, you don't. And they also, an English officer is meant to set the example by doing things. But no, their head man is their sheikh, and the carpet's always laid down, the coffee put on, and everything's done for them. They would do all this for me, and it was very tempting and very nice. But I had a really fascinating 2 years.
Yeah. What did you do outside work in them 2 years? What sort of fun did you have?
what I loved, we were on the edge of the empty quarter of Arabia called the Rub al Khali, and I used to walk out there knowing no one. There was an English explorer called Thesiger who had 2 camels in milk, and he had crossed it. He's the only one who had. A total empty quarter. And I used to walk in that. I used to go there and I used to feel great. I thought, it's so peaceful. I feel I can think and I'll decide what I want to do with my life and things like that. Apart from having to be in charge of these men medically and in every other way, in charge of them and going on patrols and things, the 2 years went pretty quickly.
When you say you would think about your life, what was your plan then when you came back?
Well, that was it. That's what I decided. I got time to think about things, but I hadn't decided what I wanted to be.
What year was that, just for context?
In 1953. No, before 1953.
Early 50s.
About 1956.
Yeah.
Oh, 1956, 57 I was out
So
there.
not long before you became an actor, really. And
Yeah. So eventually, when I did 2 years there, it was strange because in one sense it was very easygoing, very laid back. The local Sheikh Zayed, who I got very friendly with, I actually had a meal in his palace. Well, I say a palace, it was a mud palace. It was quite basic because they hadn't struck oil.
Sounds more impressive than it
way
was.
Before they are now, they're different. I don't recognise any of it now. I got a photograph myself with him, and he was quite friendly and really nice. And he became the first emir of the United Arab Emirate, which he became when we'd finished our job. That's what it was. So when my service came out, I was discharged. I was sent back to England, and I didn't realise the effect that having 2 years in a totally different attitude like that, a totally different way of life, I couldn't believe it when I landed in London, the noise, the bustle, the people. I just booked into a little hotel and I stayed there for 2 days. I didn't even go home. I felt absolutely bewildered.
Chaos. Chaos.
It just seemed horrendous. And of course, out there I was feted and regarded as something special, and life was sort of
bigger.
Yeah,
but you felt
so
kind
totally
of
different. It took me. I eventually got home, and then the army rang me and said, "Oh, you've actually been discharged 6 months too soon. So we're going to re-enlist you, but you don't have to come back. Just carry on, and we'll just pay you for 6 months."
Nice.
I thought, great.
Nice. Yeah. Where can I
So
sign
I
up
had
to
6 months living with my father. I remember I built a wooden shed in the garden for him in Derbyshire, England. Ilkeston was where I was born, but they by that time my father had retired and moved to a little village called Trowell, quite near.
I know it, yeah, of course. I've got a claim to fame. Before I got in Coronation Street and met you, I did a TV commercial, Ilkeston Cooperative Travel. I did that TV commercial and I took my top off, and if you remember rightly, it was a stripper when I came into Corrie, so I had a bit of form for taking my top off at the time.
Yes, you did.
So yeah. So flip forward to 1960, the lovely Tony Warren, by the way. What a lovely guy. He cast you in Corrie. What were the first few years like, and who was your comrade as an actor, maybe, or a friend in the show at the time? Because I know Alan Rothwell was obviously in it, playing
Alan
your
Rothwell
brother.
played my brother.
Were you close?
I mean, the thing is, when you're working there, and we had it was live, remember, on the Friday.
Yeah.
When you'd finished working, you wanted to go home.
Go home.
So, although we all got on well, there was no discord. We all respected each other and we got on well. It was a happy place to go to work. We didn't meet up out of work. Very rarely.
Is that the same now?
I've no idea, quite honestly. I don't meet up with anybody.
It's different for you now.
I had one or two people, like Chris Gascoigne and one or two others recently that I was more close to. I'm probably more close to people in makeup and wardrobe and things like that.
What about Barbara? Because Barbara's been in it since day dot.
Barbara and I have never been. We've been polite and good, but we've never been friendly. I have never been socially out with Barbara ever.
Barbara's quite low profile, though, isn't she? She never does interviews.
Also, she speaks her mind and she knows her life, which is fine and very good. And we respect each other, but we don't meet up socially. No.
It's so funny because if I'd never been in the show and never been an actor, you always look at people on TV and think they're all best mates, and actually in reality, no one knows each other. You can like them and be friendly with them, but that's it. And we meet at set parties, the street parties at Christmas and things like that, and we can have a drink and things. But and Barbara's great. She's a wonderful person. Yeah, she's lovely. I really liked her, by the way. I really liked her. I really liked her.
And they're all nice. There wasn't a single discord there in the cast in any way. It was a very happy
happy
show.
place.
I think you experienced that, didn't you?
I did. And from my perspective, the people I liked the most were you and Barbara, Amanda.
Amanda was lovely. Yeah, Amanda Barry,
What was Pat Phoenix like? And I'll tell you why I asked. Because I used to live in Hollingworth before I moved to Audley Edge. I lived in Hollingworth for 22 years, and that was her last house, and I lived on the same street as her. I didn't obviously meet her, but I used to see Tony Booth on occasions walking around.
Yeah.
So what was she like? Because she was a firebrand, wasn't she?
She was a character, Pat. She was lovely. She was quite emotional, and she's the one who took the personal appearances, really swallowed them whole and did the lot, made a big deal out of it, did very well out of them. And she was very good. And I had a big row with her early on, and when in the very early days, you had Vi Carson was strong and talked about strong, and Elsie was the other one, but not quite as secure as Vi Carson, and they were struggling to be top dog.
Dominance. Dominance.
There was a lot going on there, and I remember the character Elsie Tanner had said something to my wife Val. It was really unpleasant, and I told her off about it. And said, well, don't do it again. And at the rehearsal, she said to the director, I don't think Elsie would take this from this young man. I was playing 22, I was actually 28.
Yeah.
And she said at the end, Bill, would you pause? Because I want to threaten to throw an ashtray at you. The only time I can ever remember getting angry in the street, I said no.
In all them years.
And you know exactly what you're doing. You're turning the scene on its head.
Yeah.
And in my view, that's very unprofessional. Didn't talk to me for 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah. And then, after
Jesus.
about 2 years, we were standing together waiting to make an entrance. And she had a birthday party coming out. And she said, oh, well, I suppose you can come to my birthday party if you want to. And I said, I'd love to, Pat. And I did, and we became great buddies, great friends after that.
I've got in it story, and actually, you might be involved in it slightly. It wasn't deliberate. Basically, when I came into Corrie, I'd done some acting, but not a lot. So it was my big break, and I didn't understand what a call sheet was, and I couldn't Google it. There was no Google, and I was too proud to ask anyone. So I fumbled my way through the first few months. And then, there's like 2 units shooting and there's a pink sheet or something. I can't remember what it was, but I didn't realise I was in at 7 a.m. and I didn't show up. And that's terrible. And I've never ever done that in my life. But it wasn't deliberate. I just didn't know. And I'd turned my phone off and I'd slept in. I think the producer rang me. I think Mike Lavelle rang. You might have rang and said, Scott, it's not like you. You're not in. And anyway, I turned up. It was horrific. But Mike Lavelle, I love Mike, by the way.
Hey, Mike's great guy,
but we used to work together in the garage, and he didn't speak to me for 3 weeks after that. It was really awkward. Yeah. He was, I was dropping the kids off at the pool. You've stopped that. You've stopped all of that. You've ruined it for me, mate. Ruined it. I'm like, oh.
Well,
sorry, mate. Sorry about
that. Always say to forgive all, to understand all is to forgive all.
Yeah.
And
it wasn't deliberate. Do you know what I mean? It was horrific though, because you can imagine this massive mechanism. I turn my phone on. I've got 3 or 4 people ringing me, and I was just like, "Oh my God, this is the worst day of my life." I'm actually getting anxiety talking about it 25 years afterwards.
Nice, is it?
What were the 60s like for you outside Coronation Street? What was the fame like? Was it intense? Was it because it was
happened,
2 channels? Was it 3 channels?
It was amazing because after our first transmission, I remember the producer coming down the corridor saying, "What's happened? What's going on? I don't understand this." Because there'd been a colossal reaction. And after the first few weeks, Coronation Street was shot into the top 10 of the rating.
Oh, straight away.
Off. And we all became celebrities and doing personal appearances and all that sort of stuff. And it was instant. So it was nice, it was good, it was lovely.
You were before the Beatles.
What?
You were before the Beatles, Bill.
Well, I remember being
famous
in
before the
Granada
Beatles.
when the Beatles came round. Tom Jones came round. I remember he had spots and a big boil on his neck. All these people kept coming through and going on the local programs and they're making their fame. And then they retired and sort of moved on, and I'm still here.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, but I think I thought about what my life might have been like if I'd have stayed in it 25 years or whatever. It would have been different. I've done other things and worked in America a couple of times and done bits and pieces. But that's the thing. You've been a rock there for all these years on British TV. And people have come and gone, and the Beatles they'll never come and go. But there's so many pop stars that you might have seen on your travels or other actors
most of them pass through Granada one way or another.
Well, I mean, Oscar winners, Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
Who else has won an Oscar who's been in Corrie? I'm trying to think. There must be a few now.
Oh yeah, quite a few. I can't remember the names offhand. Anyway, we've seen a lot of people come and go. We've had some really good people coming and wanting to do a little bit on the street, apart from royalty visiting a few times.
I was around then when Prince Charles came. It was 2000,
he was lovely. We
had
had lunch with him up in the...
upstairs, with Charles Allen.
I had a long chat with him, I remember, about... he was talking about being, I think, as the king, he was something of the faith, in charge of the faith or something, and he wanted to change it to the plural, to the faiths. And he was great to talk to. He was wonderful.
I met him at a private polo match. It was in Corrie actually. It was 2001, and somebody, long story, had invited me down and said, "Oh, come meet Prince Charles." I'm like, yeah, whatever. Anyway, I turned up to this laser-adjusted polo pitch to this guy who was a broker for Alcatel. And Prince Charles was there, and there was only about 30 people there.
Yeah.
And William and Harry were there. I've got pictures to prove it. I might flash them up in the edit.
Yeah.
And he was really nice. He was really nice, actually. He was really, really nice.
I found that of all the royals, I met most of them. He was the most friendly, the warmest.
And that he's not being fake about that. I mean, obviously, he's good at his job. It is part of the job. But this was different because it was such an informal event. There was no security, really. He had one security detail. I was sat next to this tall Spanish guy, quite a bit older than me, and I was talking to him about half an hour, and I said to him, "So what do you do?" And the guy at the side of him went, "This is Juan Carlos of Spain." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So it was really, really informal.
It's interesting.
So can I ask, did Prince Charles actually act in Coronation Street?
Yes, he did.
Technically, yes.
He had a part. I think Sue Nichols was the one who had the lines with him, and he appeared as himself. Yeah.
That's right. I remember. I was really jealous because I wasn't invited to the live. I was sat at home like that going, I want to be in the live show. And then I seen the scared look on people's faces.
I remember Camilla coming round way back, and I remember we often hear, and I said to her, look, you know, people say they like Coronation Street. Do you like it? She said, I can honestly tell you that my family at 7:30 had the phone switched off for half an hour.
No way.
Because Coronation Street was on. And I was delighted at that.
The Queen watched it as well, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, you don't know. You never... They don't commit to that. They have to be very careful what they say. Well, their favourite. I know the Queen Mother loved Coronation Street. I know Diana loved Coronation Street. And that's it. Most of them won't actually... You shouldn't ask them that because they find it difficult to answer.
Who is the most impressive person you have met during your travels?
Oh,
it can be anyone. It doesn't have to be royal. It could be a...
Yeah. I would say it was Sheikh Zayed who became the first emir of the United Arab Emirates, because he was like a father figure to me. Because I was a young man straight from school. I was only 23 or something, and I was there with my squadron, 120 men, protecting his area at the time from the whatever was going on. And I remember turning up once at his palace, and there's a long room, and he was sitting at the top end on some cushions with a couple of people, and either side was a line of Arabs, and they'd all come to pay homage to him. And I sort of bopped up, and he said, oh, go on. And he got me to sit down by him. So I sat by him as these people came up, and they sat in front of me, Assalamu alaikum, alaikum salam, kayfa alaik, tayyib, alham, all this went on. And then he would say, yes, what do you want? And the guy said, well, someone's been stealing my camels, and I'd like something done about it. He said, right, okay, or whatever it was. And he'd just say, Naam, which is yes, or La, which is no. Beautiful, authoritative, absolutely. And they would say, Salaam alaikum, thank you, and that was it. He used to have camel races, and what he would do, he had a clapped out Cadillac, there was hardly any vehicles there, and he used to get behind his camel and chase it, but roaring with laughter all the time. He was a genuine ruler.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a prison. He could have people executed in the
he was the real deal.
Whatever they wanted, they could do. But he was just genuinely a kind man.
Kind man.
I liked him. I suppose. I mean, I met a lot of people, most of the royal family, one time or another. Charles definitely stands out.
Yeah, I would say that. I've met them as well, and I would say that. You've worked with, I don't know, it must be tens of thousands of actors. A couple of questions about your acting. First of all, who is the most impressive actor you've worked with in terms of the technique or the skill? And who's your favourite actor you've worked with? Or someone. Name someone. I know this is so difficult question because there's so many. Is there anyone who springs to mind?
I don't know if you remember a comedian called Max Wall.
Yeah.
He came in and he was absolutely fascinating, the way he delivered his lines and everything. And I remember watching his set every time he was on. I'd come and watch what he did because he was just extraordinary.
How did he deliver his lines? What was different from anyone else?
I can't explain it really. He was a very strange man. He lived off Guinness and boiled eggs. That's all he ate. And then, of course, Laurence Olivier came along and...
no way, did he?
I haven't told you the story about Olivier. I have a story there. In the very early days, when I'd come out of the army and I was trying to get started in acting, I was finding it very difficult. And I just wrote lots of letters to everybody. And Laurence Olivier was running a company, I think it was St. James Management or something, or he started a company. So I wrote the letter to this company, like I did to the others. Didn't have their address. So I knew he was appearing in The Entertainer in London, so I sent it to care of Sir Lawrence, The Entertainer in London. I got a letter back from Salon saying, come to the stage door at 7:15. I thought, wow. So I did, and at 7:15, 5 minutes later, he came round the corner and said, Mr. Roache, come on.
That's insane.
Wow.
That's
I couldn't believe
amazing.
it. I went into his dressing room. I mean, I'd been from the army trying to get into acting. Everyone said, don't bother, don't get, you've got well-known people, can't get work.
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
should we give you work? Just leave it. And so Lawrence Liver, while he was putting on his makeup, George Ralph, the actor, came in and he introduced me, you know,
Yeah.
very, very great, chatting away. And then he suddenly said, right, he said, what can I do for you? I said, well, I really want to get into acting, and I'm trying very hard, and everyone's saying don't do it, and it's just that a word of advice from you will be worth a million from anybody else, which is true. It wasn't flattery, it was true. He said, oh, that's very sweet of you. He said, well, I tell you what, I'm just off to America to make this film with Marilyn Monroe. When I get back, remind me about this interview, and I'll see what I can do for you. Okay?
Wow, amazing.
I said, thank you. And I went out of there, because I was on the verge of giving up.
Yeah.
I went straight into an agent's office. And I have to say, I told a pack of lies, because I knew when I was at school in Colwyn Bay, there was a repertory theatre in Colwyn Bay. I knew them, I knew some of the actors, not personally, but I knew who they were, and I knew the plays they'd done. So I said, I've been in Colwyn Bay Rep. And they chatted away for a bit, and they said, okay, well, you've got the job, if you want it, summer season in Clacton-on-Sea. Oh, thank you. So I went out of there with a job.
It doesn't work like that these days.
No. Well, I hadn't told you about how I got into equity. That was a different thing altogether as well. So I turned up at Clacton-on-Sea, and the people would talk about upstage, downstage, corpsing. I didn't know any of this stuff. I didn't know a thing. I'd done a bit of acting at school, that's all. And I didn't know what I was doing. Eventually, though, by about the third or fourth play, they were all very helpful and very kind. I began to understand what I was doing, and I remember the director at the end, he said, "Bill, I've never seen anybody improve so much as you did." So that was my start.
How did you go about the what is your technique when it comes to acting? Everyone's got, I mean, look, to be honest, there's loads of different ways of going about it. There's method acting, there's this and that. What's yours? What would you describe yours as?
Pseudo method, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're playing a character that's vastly different from yourself, you've got all sorts of things to learn and do. I didn't have that. I was just playing me as
An extension.
Ken Barlow. And so, in my book, I don't act, I just do, and I believe it.
Okay.
And that's it.
Yeah.
I don't think about acting at all. I just absorb, take it all in, feel that that's who I am, that's what I'm doing, and do it.
Yeah.
And over the years in Coronation Street, there's only been a couple of times, one time particularly, when it hasn't worked, because I took it personally. I was personally involved. It wasn't Ken, it was me doing this, but under the name of Ken and so on. And
because the storyline was mirroring something in your life.
Well, what it did, Ken had an illegitimate child by a hairdresser, and he was looking after his child on his own and was very protective of it, but fighting for it tooth and nail. Suddenly, not in just one episode, but in one scene, the mother of the child comes along, takes it away, and he says, okay. And I went up, I said, I'm sorry, I just can't do that. I mean, I've been so involved with protecting, keeping, and looking after this child, and suddenly, in one sentence, and they said, yeah, I said, the producer, I'm sorry, it's a bit sudden, I realised it. And it was too late to change it, really. I just had to do it, but that was a big wrench. So I took them all personally, you know. as an actor, you shouldn't do that.
No.
You can't. If you're doing different parts all the time and doing that, you'll be all over the place.
Of course, yeah. You shouldn't take it home with you.
I took Ken... I feel I'm Ken's protector.
Yeah.
I feel I'm looking after his caretaker rather than protector. And that's what I do.
Yeah. What's it like learning... One thing I always have, I have got a very good memory, but sometimes with learning lines... It's that procrastination. How do you still go about learning lines? It's so many years that you've been doing this, though. Does it go in like that? Have you got a technique for doing it?
Not really. I mean, it's people ask about learning as an actor, but it's not like poetry, is it? I mean, it's an exchange. So, are you going to the Rovers? Yeah. Well,
yeah.
What do you want to do? Do you want to have a meal afterwards? Yeah. By the way, I'm having an affair with your daughter, or something like that, or whatever it is that's going on. And so you follow you get the sequence of the story of whatever's going on.
Yeah.
And the writers are amazing on Coronation Street. All the writers, I respect writers tremendously. And if you just keep reading it and you feel it, what is happening, the words gradually fit in, and then you just sort of polish up on them. I don't have an actual technique. I mean, we don't have much time, really. You get the scripts probably about a week or 2 weeks before.
Yeah, I remember.
But you've got others as well.
Yeah.
In those early days, isn't it?
I've got some I'll show you afterwards, but I pulled up the scene that we did. It was really funny. See if you remember it later, but it's on my phone. So, and I'll put that actually in the edit. It's a really, it was, the writing was funny. I don't know what it's like nowadays because I don't really watch it, but sometimes I catch it. But it was, my character was a comedy character who interacted with your character, and it interacted with Jack and Vera. And it was
they were great, weren't they?
Yeah, they were great. I loved Bill Tarmy's defiance at the smoking ban. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Like he was having none of it. He's like, I will have my roll-ups and nobody's stopping me.
Yeah.
In the green room like that. Yeah. If Simon Gregson can bring his dog in, I'm having a fag.
I know. And he had his heart transplant and everything, so I'm not giving up.
Carried on. Just whatever. Just crack on. He was amazing.
A great character, Bill. He was a wonderful singer as well.
He was a great singer. Yeah. He sounded a bit like Joe Cocker. He was a little bit like Joe Cocker.
Sure
and he used to sing in the... he used to sing in a pub in Ashton. I was actually brought up on an estate called Hartshead Estate in Ashton-under-Lyne, and he lived near the estate. I think it was the Broadacres or Broadway pub, and he used to sing there every Wednesday still. He's been gone a while now, hasn't he? I can't remember. It must be 15 years?
Oh, more maybe.
Is it?
I can't put the actual time on it, but it's a long time.
He actually sang once at the Howard Keel Golf Classic. I don't know if you remember.
The Howard Keel, yeah.
He actually sang once there, and my dad would have nobody on stage that couldn't sing, as you know, Howard Keel, Johnny Mathis, and he said it was one of the best moments of his life.
Yeah.
He shared the stage
with
Johnny Mathis, Howard Keel, Rick Wakeman, but he was fantastic.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, I remember doing that, singing with Howard Keel. Yeah, you feel really good.
I met Howard Keel as well when it was that same year, I think.
Yeah.
Actually, that brings me, you did Stars in the Rise, didn't you, Bill? Perry Como?
I never met Perry Como.
What was it? I can't remember.
The actor, comedy actor.
What was it?
Oh, I've lost him for a minute. He'll come back to me.
I did it as well, 2001. I did George Michael.
Scary,
that, isn't it? Like slightly scary experience, though. Yeah. Well paid, though.
No, you know The Odd Couple, the film? Did you see that? Jack Lemmon. Jack Lemmon was with on the stage with him, and I was singing. I was standing next to him, and all these people were standing there, and I felt really good. You felt, oh.
Yeah, Jack Lemmon performed at the Howard Keel. So
yes, yeah.
And then every celebrity in the room got up.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
It was a great moment. Yeah. He did really well with that, did well, yeah.
It went on for years, didn't it?
27 years.
27. Wow.
Raised about 4 million.
That's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I remember playing in the Bob Hope once. I was up in the practice area, and all the pros were there hitting the ball. My caddy was virtually collecting it. Mine were going.
Yeah.
he just came up with his eyes. He said, "Oh, are you playing in the Ryder Cup?" No, just watch for a while. You realise I'm not.
What was your favourite era of Coronation Street?
I'm often asked that. It's just so different. I mean, those early days were totally different. We all knew each other. We cared about each other. They used to get a little bus and throw a crate of beer in the back, and we'd all go to London or somewhere. And nowadays, the cast is just too big. You know, you can't do that. So I think I prefer the method of filming that we do now, where you just turn up and do your scenes.
Yeah.
Before it was rehearsed like a full play and then done like a full play, and if there was one mistake in one film, they had to go back and do the whole lot.
Yeah.
Or do a whole quarter anyway, up to the commercial break. So from a technical point of view, definitely prefer the system we have now. But each era I've been in has had its own special thing, and I've just loved it.
Yeah. I really loved, as a viewer, the 80s. And
yes.
Yeah.
I think the 70s and the 80s, in the looking back on the old ones, seem to be very popular with people.
Yeah. I love the 80s, and I was asked I can't remember, it might have been the 60th anniversary. It was 60th anniversary, and the Daily Mirror asked me to do I don't know if Alison Sinclair had just rang me randomly.
Alison,
years.
Yeah.
And I did an interview for the Daily Mirror about what my favourite Coronation Street scene was, and I chose the love triangle between you, Deirdre, and Mike Baldwin, and the fight and the and the shaking and all that. That was my favourite Coronation Street scene ever. Was that kind of about 88, 87?
I can't remember why. Again, I can't.
That was
put
iconic.
The time on it, but it was a great story. We got lots of awards for that as well. Because I was quite frustrated over the way that Ken had been written as being a bit wet and
of course.
I was sort of fighting that, but it all worked out very well, and everyone was really good.
How was your relationship with Johnny Briggs then?
Yeah, Johnny and I, we used to play golf in these big, in the Howard Keel. Johnny would be in it and I'd be in it. And then lots of big names had their weekend tournaments, and we'd be off playing in those. But we wouldn't play together, obviously, because we'd be celebrities on different teams, but we'd meet up socially at the dinner afterwards and so on. I got on well with Johnny, and he was great, but we weren't over friendly.
Yeah.
We didn't meet socially very much, but we were great with each other.
It's funny because again, it's like that TV thing. You have this massive, ridiculous connection as characters. But people believe it. And Mike Baldwin and Ken Barlow with me growing up.
On stage, boom! We punched each other. I think he punched me and I punched him. We had various.
He was a funny guy. Yeah. He was a funny guy. He
was a great guy, Johnny.
Yeah. So in the show, how many times have you been married? Is it 7? I can't remember now.
Is what?
In the show, how many times have you been married?
Well, I've been married to Deirdre twice.
That's right, yeah.
And then once to my first wife, Anne Reid, played by Anne Reid.
Of course, yeah. Anne Reid's still around, isn't she? She's doing very well. She's in Hollywood.
Well.
Yeah.
So really, it's 3 times. But
I thought it was more,
but twice to Deirdre.
Twice to Deirdre.
Yeah.
What was Anne your anchor? Was she your favourite on-screen?
To begin with, that's my wife. She was lovely. She was really good to act with, and we had the children. And was really happy. I mean, Ken had a reputation there, but what he wanted was another marriage like he had with Val, and with Anne Reid. But it didn't happen. Well, it did when Anchor Bride came along.
Yeah,
that was great. That was a lovely relationship. She was a wonderful actress.
I know. I really liked her. She was
really brilliant comedy timing.
Yeah.
And she was very funny off as well.
Yeah, she was. She was. She used to swear like a trooper now and then, didn't she, as well?
Yeah.
What's your favourite-ish moment of the whole of this 5 years on Coronation Street? Was it an award? Was it a specific scene?
We met a lot of brilliant people, and most of the royal family, and often I escorted them if they came to the street as a sort of senior member. I've had so many wonderful times there. It's very difficult to sort of. It's like saying, "Tell me a joke," you know.
Yeah, I couldn't do.
And storyline-wise, I think the Ken, Mike, Deirdre one was probably the biggest impact we had as well.
Yeah. It'd be really nice as well, because I met Sarah quite a few times, and you know, it was tragic what happened in 2009. How did you navigate that? Did you use work? Was work your anchor, or did you use your spirituality to sort of get through something like that?
It was such a shock. I mean,
it was
totally sudden. And she was so wonderful. She was a wonderful wife. She did everything around the house and bought my clothes and things like that as well. So it was a lot for all of us to get used to. And I have my own understanding about life and what goes on. I know that life carries on. She carries on. I know that life goes on.
Yeah.
We are, I believe there's a one God who is loving, totally loving, and we're all looked after in that sense. And that's it. I want to keep it as simple as that.
Yeah.
And yes, certainly that helped.
And what advice would you give to your younger self?
My younger self? Have a bit more confidence in what you think. I was never too sure of myself of certain things, but generally I don't have any advice for myself other than to keep open-minded, be honest, be loving, be caring. Life is valuable. Every life is important. And that's it. I just follow that.
Two final questions. How do you stay looking so young? Because this is ridiculous now. You're 94 years old.
Well, I think to quite a large extent, aging is a belief system, you know. And as you get on, people say, "Oh, take it easy. You shouldn't be doing that." So you start taking it easy, and I think you should give that up. So you give that up, and it goes down, down you go. Actually, as you get older, you should start doing more, not less.
I agree. It's the boredom. It's the boredom that's the killer. Yeah,
absolutely. But that's my view in that, and we're lucky to be here as we are. Make the most of it.
Yeah, and they say that the scientifically the chances of being alive in the first place are about 1 trillion to 1, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we're all a miracle, good or bad.
Absolutely, it is a miracle. Life is a miracle. Our actual physical body is a miracle.
Yeah.
And it's capable of so much more.
Yeah. All right, final question. What does the future hold for William Roache? Are we aiming for 100? Have you got that in your mind? I think you'll make it. I think you'll probably outlive me, to be honest.
I try not to think about the years. I just think about getting on and enjoying life. And I would just say for the future, more of the same.
Yeah. Bill, it's so good to see you. It's so good
Thanks,
to see
Doc.
you.
It's lovely to meet you again.
It
really is.
Lovely to see you. Thank you so much.
Hello. Pleasure. Pleasure talking to you.